The galaxy thought it had already broken humanity. Our fleets scattered, our worlds smoldering, our people living in the shadow of alien chains. But history remembers the moments when despair gave way to defiance, when a cornered species chose fire over surrender. On that day, when the enemy gathered their armadas to crush Earth's last defenses, something long buried stirred beneath the silence of our homeworld. Massive, ancient, forbidden, humanity's war machines. They weren't meant to see the light again. Not after the first time they walked, not after the galaxy begged us to lock them away. And yet, when the chains closed around us, we turned the key. The stars themselves would witness what it means when humans stop holding back. Because the question was never whether humanity could be defeated. The question was, what would happen if we truly fought without restraint? The day began like so many others. Though none of us realized it would be the last day of peace humanity would ever know. Captain Elias Wren stood on the balcony of Arcadia Station, a sprawling hub suspended above Earth's scarred surface. Below, the oceans glittered like fractured glass, still poisoned from wars long past. Yet above, always above, there was hope. Ships rising, ships landing, children pointing to the skies as if the stars still belonged to us. For Elias, it was routine. His duty wasn't glamorous. Maintenance reports, crew rosters, political squabbles from Earth's council bleeding into station life. He was no war hero, no chosen savior, just a man holding together what little humanity still had. He loved his crew, cared for his people, and clung to the fragile order that kept despair at bay. But the stars have a way of reminding us that routine is fragile. The first sign came as a whisper, a distortion in Arcadia's long-range scanners. A ripple in the dark, faint but unmistakable. An armada was moving. Elias leaned over the readouts, brow furrowed. The size was staggering. Thousands of ships arranged in a formation only one empire commanded, the Zeran Dominion. Every child of Earth knew their name. They were the architects of conquest, the ones who had burned colonies from the outer rim to the cradle itself. Humanity had fought them once, centuries ago, and the scars had never healed. The treaties that followed were less peace and more shackles, restrictions on technology, bans on certain weapons, an enforced disarmament that bled humanity dry. And yet, some things were never truly destroyed. "Captain," a young ensign whispered, pale as the readout bathed her face in ghostly light. "They're coming this way." Elias didn't answer right away. He stared at the projection of alien war banners filling the void, each one a reminder of humanity's place at the bottom of the galactic order. He thought of his daughter, Lena, safe planetside, if anywhere in this galaxy could be called safe. He thought of the fragile hope in the eyes of Arcadia's people, all of them depending on him to make the impossible choice. Was this the day the Dominion finally ended humanity? Or was it the day humanity remembered how to fight? The thought haunted him, because deep within Arcadia Station, buried in locked vaults sealed since before his birth, lay the answer to that question. The war machines. Most of humanity thought they were myth. Titans of steel, taller than cities, born from an age when desperation drove human engineers to the edge of madness. Their awakening had once scarred the stars themselves. The galaxy demanded they be chained, entombed, and forgotten. Humanity agreed, terrified of its own creations. But Elias knew the truth. He had seen the sealed archives. He had read the warnings etched in trembling hands. Do not wake them. If you do, the galaxy will never know silence again. Now, as alarms echoed through Arcadia and the Dominion's signal demands began pouring in, he wondered if the choice had already been made for him. His people looked to him not because he was extraordinary, but because he was human. Because in the face of impossible odds, humanity had always found a way. And because sometimes the greatest danger wasn't in what the aliens could do to them, but in what they might force humanity to unleash. Elias gripped the railing, staring out at the stars, and whispered to himself the question that would soon echo across the galaxy. What happens when we take the chains off? The first demands from the Zeran Dominion arrived like poisoned daggers wrapped in silk. Their message played across every channel of Arcadia Station, a towering holographic emissary framed in cruel armor. Its voice was like grinding metal, calm and merciless. Humanity has broken its chains for the last time. Kneel, surrender your stations and fleets, and your species will be permitted to exist as servants. Resist, and Earth itself will be stripped to ash. The words settled like lead in the command deck. Officers exchanged glances. Some lowered their eyes in fear. Others gritted their teeth in defiance. Elias Wren stood at the center, the weight of billions pressing down on him. He could hear the faint tremor of the station's reactor thrumming through the floor, a reminder of what still slept beneath them. His orders would decide whether that power stayed buried or walked again. But first came survival. "Status of the outer defenses?" he asked, voice steady. A lieutenant swallowed. 3 orbital batteries online, but they won't last against a fleet that size. Our carriers are scattered across supply routes. We're alone. Alone. The word cut deeper than any threat. Humanity had allies once, long ago, but after the Dominion's victory, no species dared stand beside them. To fight with humanity was to invite extinction. "Then we'll show them we're not as alone as they think," Elias said. He knew the odds. Arcadia Station had enough guns to bloody the first wave, maybe cripple a battleship if they struck true. But strategy was never about winning every battle. It was about making the enemy underestimate what you still had left. "Bring up the defense grid. Signal every ship in range. We'll hold them at the line." The Dominion Armada arrived with the inevitability of a tidal wave. Thousands of ships, their hulls glowing with the cold light of alien reactors, blotted out the stars. They advanced in silence, as if confident the prey would simply bow before the blade. On Arcadia's command deck, silence gave way to ordered chaos. Tactical maps lit up with enemy formations. Orders rippled through the comm channels. Civilian transports ignited their engines, fleeing toward the dark side of the moon. "Target their vanguard destroyers," Elias ordered. "Make them feel our bite." The first volley lit up the void. Rail cannons roared, hurling metal slugs at relativistic speed. Plasma batteries carved arcs of fire through the darkness. For a moment, just a moment, the sky above Earth burned with human defiance. 2 Dominion destroyers fractured under the barrage, their shields collapsing in blossoms of fire. A cheer erupted from Arcadia's gunners, raw and desperate. But the Dominion did not falter. Their formation shifted, cold and precise, like a predator tightening its jaws. Energy lances speared outward, tearing through orbital batteries as if they were paper. Human ships scattered, some vanishing in flashes of light as their reactors went critical. The cheer died. Elias gripped the railing, refusing to flinch as casualty reports poured in. He knew this was only the beginning. Hours blurred into minutes as the battle raged. Arcadia shook under the strain, its outer hull scarred and bleeding oxygen into space. Elias ordered tactical retreats, regroupings, hit-and-run strikes that slowed the Dominion advance but never stopped it. Still, humanity fought like wolves cornered. Outnumbered, outgunned, they exploited every weakness. The blind spots in Dominion targeting systems, the narrow asteroid fields where smaller human craft could vanish, the unorthodox maneuvers no alien strategist would dare attempt. "Captain, they're adapting," warned his tactical officer. "Every trick we use, they counter faster." Of course they were. The Dominion had studied humans for centuries. They thought they knew every move, every limit. Elias's jaw tightened. They didn't know what humanity still kept locked away. As the third wave struck, Arcadia's reactor alarms screamed. not from damage, but from the vaults beneath. Elias froze. He had never seen the Dominion's final ultimatum arrived not as words, but as fire. A colossal dreadnought broke through the haze of battle, its shadow blotting out the sun itself. Its superweapon charged, a spear of light capable of piercing continents. The target was Earth, not Arcadia. The message was clear. Humanity had one choice: surrender or watch their home die. On the command deck, silence reigned. Even the static of failing comms seemed to fade. Officers looked at Elias with hollow eyes. They had fought, bled, sacrificed. But no tactic, no clever maneuver could stop what was coming. For a long moment, Elias said nothing. He looked at the holographic image of Earth, oceans scarred but still alive. He thought of Lena, of the billions who had no weapons, no ships, no say in this war. He thought of the vault below, of warnings etched by ancestors who had faced extinction once before. And then, with a breath that seemed to carry the weight of all humanity, he whispered the words that would echo through eternity: "Unchain them." The order rippled through Arcadia like a tremor. Seals broke that had held for centuries. Vault doors the size of mountains shuddered, hydraulics screaming as locks disengaged. Steam vented into the dark, and then they rose. Colossi of steel and fire, their silhouettes dwarfing battleships, their footsteps making the very station tremble. Some bore cannons larger than city blocks. Others carried blades forged to split hulls like paper. Their cores glowed with energy older than the treaties that bound them, older than the Dominion's claim to the stars. The war machines had awakened. On the Dominion's scanners, new signatures appeared, towering, impossible, radiating power no sane strategist would believe. For the first time, their perfect formation faltered. On Arcadia's deck, officers stared in awe. Fear mingled with something else. Something they hadn't felt in centuries. Hope. The first Titan moved. It launched from Arcadia's surface with a thunderous roar, engines blazing trails across the void. Dominion ships opened fire, lances of plasma scorching its armor, but the war machine advanced undeterred. Its arm cannons unleashed a storm of molten fury, tearing through the dreadnought's escort like paper. A second Titan followed, carving a path with blades that shimmered brighter than the sun. Alien hulls cracked like glass. Fighters scattered, breaking formation for the first time in living memory.
Captain,
Yara whispered, her voice trembling not from fear, but awe.
We've unleashed the storm.
Elias nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the unfolding chaos.
And the stars will never forget it.
But victory was far from certain. The Dominion, furious and terrified, threw everything at the Titans. Waves of fire swallowed the void. Battleships rammed headlong, sacrificing themselves to slow the advance. The Dreadnought's superweapon charged once more, aiming to end the Titans before they could reach it. On Arcadia, power flickered, systems overloading from the war machine's energy surge. The station trembled as if caught between annihilation and salvation. And then silence. The Titans slowed, their cores burning brighter as though reaching for something deeper, something older. The void itself seemed to hold its breath. The battle was about to turn. The Dreadnought's weapon core reached critical charge. From Arcadia's deck, the projection filled the chamber, a spear of annihilation gathering in the alien flagship's heart. Its glow was like a newborn star, bright enough to cast shadows across Earth's surface below. Entire oceans shimmered under its light, awaiting erasure. Elias Wren stood frozen, hands braced against the command rail, listening to the hum that meant death. Reports shouted around him, shields failing, power grids collapsing, evacuation routes overrun, but all of it blurred into the single truth. If that beam fired, Earth was gone, billions gone, Lena gone, humanity gone. The Titans moved. The first war machine launched forward, engines roaring as it drew fire from every Dominion ship. Plasma lances carved across its armor, shredding plating in molten ribbons, but it did not falter. With each step, it unleashed storms of fire, reducing warships to dust, yet still the dreadnought loomed untouched. A second Titan joined, colliding headlong with a Dominion carrier. The impact shook the void, tearing both colossi apart in a blaze of wreckage. Human officers gasped, but even in destruction, the Titan's sacrifice cleared a path. "Captain!" Yara shouted, pointing at the tactical readout. "They're not fighting to win! They're fighting to reach it!" Elias understood. The war machines had no interest in the battle around them. Their target was the dreadnought, the source of annihilation. "Signal the fleet," he ordered, voice steady though his chest burned. "Clear the path. Every ship, every cannon, open the way for the Titans." The call spread across battered human frequencies. Damaged corvettes and broken destroyers pivoted, throwing themselves into the Dominion's jaws. Pilots flew suicide runs, engines screaming, cutting gaps through the alien formation. Soldiers aboard crippled ships set their reactors to overload, detonating themselves in blossoms of fire that blinded enemy sensors. One by one, the war machines advanced. The dreadnought's weapon charged to full. Its light washed over the battlefield, a rising tide of doom. Elias clenched his fists until his knuckles went white. He could almost feel the Dominion's confidence. This was the end, the final blow, the day humanity would be carved from existence. But humanity had never bowed to inevitability. The lead war machine raised its arm. Energy built along its cannons, a glow brighter than a sunrise. It fired. The blast struck the dreadnought's shield and shattered against it. Sparks scattered across the void. The Titan reeled, armor cracking from the recoil. Its attack hadn't pierced. Gasps filled Arcadia's deck. "They can't break through," someone whispered. "We're finished." Elias's heart thundered. No. There had to be a way. He scanned the readouts, desperate, searching. And then he saw it. The dreadnought's weapon core, massive and unstable, glowing like a sun about to collapse. Every weapon pointed outward, but inside it was vulnerable. If someone could get close enough. His voice came out as a whisper, but it carried across the command deck. "They're not meant to destroy it from outside." Yara's eyes widened as the truth struck her. "They're going inside." As if hearing the unspoken words, the lead Titan surged forward. Dominion fire raked across its body, ripping entire limbs away, but still it pressed on. One of its blades extended, glowing like a shard of lightning, and with a single sweep it carved an opening in the dreadnought's hull. The Titan plunged through the breach. Inside the alien colossus, fire and debris erupted as the war machine tore through corridors built for beings far smaller than itself. It was a god among insects, crushing walls, rending reactors, striding with one purpose, the core. The Dominion panicked. Their formations wavered. Ships that had never known fear now broke rank, desperate to stop the intruder. But the second Titan held the line outside, a wall of steel and fire, sacrificing itself piece by piece to keep the enemy from following. On Arcadia, silence fell. Every officer leaned forward, eyes fixed on the single blinking signal moving deeper into the dreadnought. Closer. Closer. Until finally, it reached the core. The war machine stood before a sphere of raw energy, pulsing like a captured star. For a moment, it hesitated, as though even this titan of war knew the cost of what must be done. Then it lowered its weapons, reached forward, and embraced the core. A light brighter than creation itself burst forth. From Arcadia, from Earth, from every ship in orbit, Humanity watched as the dreadnought convulsed. Its weapons sputtered, faltered, and then collapsed inward. The war machine's signal vanished in the blinding storm, its sacrifice ripping the heart from the alien flagship. When the light cleared, the dreadnought was no more. Where it had stood, only wreckage drifted, torn apart by forces no alien commander had imagined humans could wield. But silence did not bring safety. The Dominion's fleet still numbered in the thousands. Their rage was unbound, their weapons still aimed at Earth. Elias gripped the rail, breath ragged. The Titans had won them a moment, but only a moment. And in that terrible quiet, as Dominion warships regrouped, as humanity braced for the counterstrike, a single question settled over every soul who witnessed it. If one Titan's sacrifice could shatter their greatest weapon, what would happen when all the war machines walked together? The stars hung in silence, as if holding their breath. Where moments before there had been fire, where alien warships lit the void with their fury, now there was only wreckage drifting quietly in the dark. The void swallowed screams, swallowed the roar of battle, and left only the steady pulse of human hearts still beating in defiance. Leora sat in the captain's chair, her hands trembling against the armrest. Not from weakness, but from the weight of survival. Around her the crew moved slowly, dazed by what they had endured. Smoke drifted from shattered consoles, lights flickered weakly overhead, and in the center of it all, humanity's fragile vessel floated, scarred but unbroken. Outside, the alien flagship smoldered. The impossible had been done. A single human ship had struck down the Empire's pride. For a long moment, no one spoke. It was as if their minds couldn't yet accept that they were alive, that they had won. Then, soft, unsteady, laughter broke the silence, not mocking, not manic, just the raw, unfiltered sound of relief. It spread through the bridge, from one exhausted soul to another, until even Leora felt it bubbling up in her chest. Against all reason, against all odds, they had survived. But victory was not the end. It was the beginning of something greater. Word would spread. Across colonies, across star systems, across the very empire that had once believed humans to be nothing but prey, this story would burn like fire through dry grass. Humanity was not to be dismissed, not to be enslaved, not to be silenced. And Leora knew the galaxy would never forget the sight. One small, battered human ship standing victorious over an empire's fleet. She turned her gaze to the viewport. Beyond the scattered debris, stars shimmered like distant candles. They had never looked so close, so alive. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was quiet, but it carried. "We proved it today," she said. "We proved what they never believed, that humans endure. We fight when others surrender. We find a way when there is none. And now the galaxy knows." The crew straightened, even through their exhaustion. They felt it too, that something had shifted, that in the grand design of the cosmos a new thread had been woven. It wasn't just survival, it was a declaration. Beyond their ship, far-off worlds would hear. Some species would feel hope, inspired by humanity's defiance. Others would feel fear, shaken by the realization that these fragile, stubborn creatures from a blue planet at the edge of the stars could topple giants. But for humanity, it was simpler. It was the knowledge that they belonged, that their story, written in sweat, blood, and courage, was not ending, but only just beginning. The alien empires had thought of humans as weak, software divided, but what they had seen today was unity forged in fire, ingenuity born of desperation, and a courage that bordered on madness, the kind of courage that changes history. Leora closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in the quiet. She thought of Earth, of oceans and forests, of faces long gone but never forgotten. She thought of the countless men and women who had fallen before this day, paving the way with sacrifice. This victory belonged to them as much as to the living. When she opened her eyes again, she felt it. A fire, small but unyielding. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and now it would never do so again. One of her officers whispered, almost reverently, "Captain, what happens now?" Leora let the question hang in the silence. Outside, a field of broken stars glimmered with possibility. The void seemed vast, endless, waiting. Her lips curved into a faint, weary smile. "Now," she said, "we rise." Across the galaxy, the story traveled faster than light. Whispers in marketplaces, broadcasts on hidden frequencies, rumors traded between frightened slaves and wary soldiers. The humans fought back. The humans won. Empires that once dismissed Earth began to hesitate. Fleets paused. Generals recalculated. For if one ship could burn down the pride of an empire, what would happen when humanity came together as one? And on Earth itself, under the familiar glow of its sun, people looked up at the night sky with a new kind of hope. They were no longer isolated, no longer helpless. Their future had teeth. Their enemies had called them fragile. And yes, they were. But fragility is not weakness. Fragility forces strength to grow in hidden places. It sharpens wit, hardens resolve, and fuels the kind of resilience no empire can comprehend. Because fragility also means adaptability, and adaptability means survival. The stars had tested humanity, and humanity had answered, not with surrender, but with fire. Leora's ship drifted on, scarred but alive, carrying its story into the void, a reminder etched into the bones of the galaxy itself. That when the universe tried to break them, humans did what humans always do. They endured, they fought, and they rose higher still. The galaxy would never be the same again.